So, welcome to Python programming. Here is the famous quote that computer science is no more about computers and astronomy is about telescopes. It means that computer science is way more than about just using one technology. It contains several topics such as high performance computing, cloud computing, human-computer interface, machine learning, software engineering, databases, networking, and so many other areas. So our syllabus is available on Canvas. Here are the contact numbers of our colleagues, myself and Professor Kim Merrill. Now, today we will cover the three primary data types, and we also understand how arithmetic operators evaluate and expressions with different data types. And we also see some examples of Python coding examples. So we'll see what is actually computer science and how you can use Python to write some program and do some coding. Okay, so the first step is in learning a language. Like any language consists of words. So programming language consists of values. And when we have few words together, we get a phrase. Similarly, combining few values and operators, we get the expressions. And then we can have a complete sentence, and then similarly we have a complete statement. Combining few expressions, we get a statement. So in words, we have different parts of speech, like a noun, verb, and other things. Similarly, for values, we have different data types, and we will see three data types today. So first is the integer. So an integer is a whole number, just commonly abbreviated as an int. Examples are positive number, single digit, many digits, and like negative numbers. And second one is the called float. Float is a number with a decimal point, like a 4.7, 0.00001, or negative 343.43. So these are the floating numbers. There must be a decimal point here. Now the third type is a string, which is like a text. So strings represent text. Text is a sequence of characters. So like a pineapple, it's all these letters together. You see the single quotes around. So text is always enclosed by single quotes. Similarly, over here, hi mom. So we have hi, comma, space, mom, full stop. So all this text is within single quotes. Similarly, this dx321. So let's do some practice. So what is 84? What do you guys think? 84 is an integer, yes. What about -1? Yes, it is also an integer. What about pretzel? Yes, it is a string. What about 99.9? It is a float, yes. What about 0? 0 is an integer. Now here's a tricky thing. What about 4.0? Some of you may think it is an integer. But although it is an integer, there is no fractional part, but we see a decimal. So whenever we see a decimal, it will be a float. So computers are actually dumb. They are fast, but they are dumb. They can't figure it out. They can't think ahead. So they take the values literally. So it is 4.0. As a human being, we think it is an integer. It's just like 4, but our Python will treat it like a floating number. So it's a float. What about this one? Easy plus 5. Yes, you're right. It is a string. Whenever we see single quotes, it means it is a string. Although it contains some plus operator at 5, but it is all ignored. What about this one? Is it an integer or is it a string? It is a string. Why it is a string? Because of the single quotes. Although the string contains an integer, but it is a string. Once single quotes are there, anything within the single quotes is ignored. It is not even processed, so it is a string. What about here? We have two single quotes and space in between. Space is also a character, so it is also a string. What about this last one? Squirrel. There is no single quote, so it will give us an error. It is neither string. We haven't covered variables yet. It could be some function or variable, but it will give. It's not a value. It's not a value. It will give error. So the key terms are that operator is a symbol that performs a specific computation on a set of values. An expression is a combination of operators and values that evaluates to a single value. Let's see some examples. Here is an expression 2 plus 8. Here plus is an operator and it has two operands 2 and 8. Usually operators have two operands and we call them binary operators. We also have unary operators which has only single operand. For example, negative. If we say -2, it will make it the number negative. So here we have our four simple arithmetic operators. We have addition, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And we can also add strings, and it's called actually concatenation. So let's do some examples and practice it. So we want to open our Python. So we go to start and we open our idle. Here is idle. This is our shell. And we also want to open the editor. So we resize the window and I resize it. I click on file and new. This is my editor. By default it is untitled, so I resize it. Resize both windows. Okay, so both windows are, sorry about this thing. Okay, I got both of them. I have to save it. I don't want to lose my data, so I click on file, save, or save as, doing it first time. So I go to my, don't save in the default. I don't want to save in the Python system package. So I go to documents and I have a folder for my class, which is here. And I want to make my examples. I make a new folder and I say examples and I call it DataTypes. So here's the name, DataTypes.py. Just to check that everything is okay, let me just print something. Print and I say welcome to DataTypes. Just a simple message to check it, and I click on run module. I did not save it, so ask me to save, say okay, and I got my output. So program is running. I can write something else over here. I can say print, so I did the send, I print my name, I save it. I can type Control S and then I can run from here, or I can press F5 function key and it prints name over here. I can also print another one. I can print let's say a major. I can say computer science, and I say F5 again, and I got 3 things. Okay, now let's practice those operations. If I say print 5 plus 3, what should I expect? It should print 8. If I press F5 and I see it is here. Let me resize the window so we can see it. And here it is 8. So this is my plus operator. If I say print 5 minus 3 and print 5 times 3 and print 5 divided by 3. I save it, Control S, and I run it. I get these ones. So 5 plus 3 is 8, which is okay. 5 minus 3 is 2. 5 times 3 is 15. And 5 divided by 3 is 1.66666667. So yeah, it is not giving us 1.67 but all that recurring. So here is our plus or minus. So we can have these 4 operators. There's actually also 5th operator we did not cover in the slides yet, which is the exponent operators. So if I say print 5 and 2 asterisks together, it is raised to power. I press F5, it gives me 1 to 5. Okay, similarly if I can say print 2 plus 5, it will print 7. And I can say print 2 minus 5 or print 2 times 5 or print 2 divided by 5 or print 2 raised to power 5. If I run these examples, so 2 plus 5 I get 7, 2 minus 5 I get negative 3, 2 times 5 I get 10, 2 divided by 5, here is interesting because we get 0.4, and 2 raised to power 5 I get 32. So you can also see over here that this division operator actually gives us float. So we give 2 integers and we get a float. All other they gave us integers. Now can we do these operations with strings? For example, can I do print Fisk plus university? What do you guys think? What should we get? Is it okay? Should it give any error or is it fine? Let's try it. We save it, we run it, and it gives Fisk University. As you can see, there is no space in between. Why there is no space? Because there is no space between these strings. So just combine these 2 strings together and made a 3rd string called Fisk University. If you want to have a space between these 2 words, you may think we can go back and put space between either after Fisk. For example, I can copy and paste this new one. One approach is I add a space after K, I save it, here is the space. Or the third option is, another option is I put a space before U. This will also work. But if I'm not allowed to change these my original string, in case I'm not allowed, can I add a space without changing the first string or this string? What do you guys think? Answer is yes. In that case, I add a space string in between. So here's a one string fisc. I'm adding space, it becomes fisc and plus space, and then whatever the answer is, I'm again combining it with the university. So if I save this one and run it, I get the same thing. So here I did not modify the original two strings, but use a third string in between. Now, so it means yes, we can add two strings. Can we subtract? I have to think ourselves, does it make sense to subtract two things? It does not. We can check it too. If I say here's a fisc minus university, if I want to subtract it and I run my code, it gives me error. Type error, unsupported operand types for str and str. So minus is not supported for str and str. Str is string, so we cannot do it. So this is error. Can we multiply? Multiply also gave us error. Can't multiply sequence by non-integer of type str. We cannot multiply two strings together. Can we divide? No, we cannot divide. It's unsupported operand types of divide. We cannot divide. Can we raise to power? Also, it doesn't make sense, so it does not work. No. So it means the only thing that we can do between two strings is the plus. We can combine two strings. There is another special thing we can do. For example, if I want to combine fisc plus exclamation mark, say fisc forever, and I say plus exclamation mark times 3. Now what will happen? If I run it, I get fisc forever and I get 3 exclamation marks. So what's happening here? This exclamation mark, so you can actually multiply string with an integer. What it will do? It will repeat that string 3 times. So this string became 3 exclamation marks and I got fisc forever 1 time. Here is one more example. If I say print ha and I say times 3, I run it, I get ha 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 3 times. And if I say print ha plus 3, what will happen now? This is a string, this is also a string. So when you combine two strings, plus in between, it will just combine. You can check it, so it will just combine two strings and get ha 3. So here you just get ha and 3 combined together. In this above example, this is a string, second is not a string, second is an integer, and you are multiplying them. So when string times integer, it means repeat this string 3 times. So second number must be an integer, and you can change the order. For example, I can say here print 3 times ha. It's the same thing as ha times 3 or 3 times ha, the same. So it is, I can change the order of operations, but one is string and one is integer, then multiplication is okay. For plus, both have to be string. If any one is not string, it will give us error. So only 2 operators are allowed in strings. Plus, if both operands are strings, and multiply if one was operand is string and the other one is integer. Now, as in algebra, we have the rule of PEMDAS, parentheses, exponential, multiple. We have similar rule over here too. For example, if I want to say print 2 plus 3 times 5, what is the answer? Is it 25 or is it 17? So multiplication has high priority. So 3 times 5 is 15 and 15 plus 2 is 17. You can check it, save it, run it. Yeah, it is 17. And you can check it the other way around. Even if you have it here, 3 times 5 plus 2, it is still 17. So multiplication is a high priority than plus and minus. Now if we really want to do plus earlier, we can put it within the parentheses. 2 plus 3 times 5. Now what do you guess? So now 2 plus 3 will be done first. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Save it, run it, F5, and this time we do get 25. Okay, so parentheses has the highest priority. What else can we do? If I say print 2 raised to power 3 plus 5 times 2 divided by 3. Now what do you guess? So in this case, exponential has the highest priority. This will be done first. So 2 cube is 8. This is 8. Then plus has a low priority. 5 times 2 is done first. 5 times 2 is 13. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 divided by 3 is 3.333. So 3.333 plus 8 should be 11. So let's see it. And you get 11.333, which is correct. Because 2 cube is 8. And then 2 plus 5, 2 5 is 10 divided by 3 is 3.333. 8 plus 3 is 11.333. So we get the same answer. Okay, here is another nice example of raised to power. What about if I say print 2 raised to power 10? What will I get? If I run it, I get 1024. And as you can see, it is very close to 1000. That is the reason we call it kilo. 2 raised to power 10 is normally called 1024, so many kilobytes. So it's a 1024. Okay. Okay, so now comes up the last operator, which is the modulo operator, and it computes and gives us the remainder. For example, 5 divided by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4 and remainder 1. And similarly, for example, we can have 10 divided by 24. Let me fix my 2. Okay. So 2 times 10 is 20. And my remainder is 4. So modulo is this 4, and if I say 9 mod 9, the same thing, 9, and here's an example for 9. So I have 9 here, 9 divided by 9, so 1 times 9 is 9, and remainder is 0. So mod gives us 0. So it's time to do some more practice. So remember on this PEMDAS, parentheses, exponential, multiplication, division, addition, subtractions. So here we have, so what is done first? So first is multiplication and division. So 1 times 5 is 5. So this is done first. This is 5. And then 6 divided by 2 is 3. This is 3. So 2 plus 5 is 8. And 8 minus 3 is 5. This answer would be 5. I'm sorry, 5 plus 2 is 7. And 7 minus 3 is 4. So this is 4. Okay, now let's do over here. So here we have parentheses. So 4 plus 1 is done first. So this will give us 5. 5 times 2 is 10. So this will give us 10. And then 10 plus 3 will give us 13. What about here? Here we have plus, multiply and plus. So this multiplication is done first. So I'll get B and B. Get 2 B's and it will be a string. Now A plus BB will give me A, B and B. This will be a string, and then this string will be combined with C, and the answer will be A and B and B and then C within these single quotes. Okay, let's do some more practice. Let's do more practice here about our modulo operator that we just covered. So if we say print 5 modulo 2, we get 1. And if I say print 5 modulo 3, what it should be? So 1 times 3 is 3, 5 minus 3 is 2. Let's see what do we get. And we get 2. That's correct. So what about if I say print 5 modulo 5? We get 0. What about if I say print 5 0? Anything divided by 0 is infinity. So 0 division error, it gives you error. So what about if I say 5 modulo 1? This thing I can remove. It gives me error. So this is 0 because we know that everything divides by 1 and remainder is 0. What about if I say 5 mod -2? It gives me the remainder -1. And if I say print -5 mod 2, it gives me +1. So the sign of the divisor holds. I say print -5 mod -2, gives me -1. So you can see whenever our this divisor is negative, we get negative modulo. Okay, so now we continue our next topic, which is the functions. So function perform the specific action on a set of values. We give some inputs and we get the output. And that function we saw normally is the print we saw already, which displays the input value in the console. Now here are 4 more functions. One is a type. Type determines, it gives us the data type of the input value. And str, it converts the input value to a string. And int, it converts the input value to an integer. Float converts the input value to a float. So let's try some examples. So here are some examples that we want to try of converting. So if I want to print, if I want to say what is the type of 2, save it, F5, type of 2 is integer because it is type of 2. Okay, what is the type of Fisk University? As we know, it should be string, and it is a string. Now what is the type of 3.95? So GPA, and it is float. What will happen if we don't put print, if we just say type 4.0? If we run it, we don't get any output because what's happening here, type function is returning the type, but we are not giving it to the print function, so we don't see on the console. So we have to give it to the print function, and then we'll see it on the console. Now if we run it, yeah, we get the float. So here is the application that type function can give us the type. What is the type of it? Now can we convert the type? We saw it, we can. For example, if we say print Fisk plus 1866, it gives us error. Why? Because this is a string, this is an integer, cannot combine string to an integer. One way is we can convert this integer to a string. How? We just learned our str function. The str we can convert integer to a string. If I run it now, I got this 1866. Because this is integer, this is string, this was integer, but I converted to a string, and two strings can be combined. So if I have 3.95 plus, let's say 3.25 plus 0.5, if I do this thing, F5, it gives me error because this is float and this is in string. But if I can convert it to a float, and now it is adding. So this was string 0.5, but I applied float on it, it became a number, and I can add it, and I got 3.75. So I can convert integer to a string, I can convert string to a float. Now let's convert string to an integer. If I say print fisk forever is a string, and I have converted it into integer. Say multiply by 3 times. So what happens now, if I run it, I get fisk forever, fisk forever, fisk forever. Why I got fisk forever 3 times? Because here is a string, I'm multiplying it, I have to multiply by an integer, but this was string. I convert the string to an integer. Integer can be multiplied by the string. But here is another example. I can have integer of 2018 minus integer of 1866, and I run it, I get 152. So this was a string, I converted the string to an integer, it became 2018 year minus integer 1866. Now you may be wondering why we are converting this string to float and integer to these things. Right now it is not clear, but later on we'll see when we'll be reading data from the files. And whenever we read from the file, it is a plain text, and we may need to convert that text to an integer or to a float. So that's why it's good to convert from one form to the other if it is allowed. For example, if we say print integer 3.95, what do you think? What should happen? Now here it is a string. We want to convert string to an integer, but this inside string is actually a float number. So this was actually an integer, so this was a valid conversion. Now this is invalid conversion. If I try it, it will give me error because it cannot be converted. 3.95, I have to make it float, then it will work. Okay, but if I have float integer and I have 3.95 inside, what will happen now? So this is, so int function converts actually both string and float to an integer. If I run it, it gives me 3. It's not rounding, it's just removing everything. So if I apply int on string 1866, just convert it to an integer. And if I apply int on float, it just completely ignored the fractional part and just give me the integer part. I can apply it in sequence too. Here is a string, just 3.95. I can convert it to a float to get 3.95 and then apply integer. So here is the example. I can say print. This was the original one, float 3.95, and then on top of it I can apply int function on it. Remember, there are three functions, so I need three closing parentheses. This is float. Whatever the output of float is, which is 3.95 number, that is given to integer. An integer int 3.95 will give me int, and then print will print it. So if I run it, I get 3, because this 3.595 string is converted to a float, number 3.95. Whatever that number is, I convert to an integer. So here is a summary. What did we learn? That values have different data types. Values can be integers, floats, or strings. The strings represent text. They are denoted by a single quote. Example, I am a string, it is a string. Values and operators, they make up expressions. And computers evaluate these expressions to a single value. We saw a few functions which perform an action on input values to compute a result. And we ran our code in Python. So we'll continue. Thank you.